Ooh, it's a spooky Halloween edition of Game on Hockey. I'm Graham Bozeman, and I went as the scariest thing I could think of, a CFL fan. Oh, just so endearing and charming, with all their friends on different teams. Horrifying behavior, CFL fans. When you have people on different teams, you fear and avoid them, as is hockey tradition. Really fun show to get into today. We're going to dive into some of the best costumes we've seen across the NHL. We will also get into the night of blowouts across the NHL. It's honestly kind of been the week of blowouts, which we'll touch on a little bit. We're going to talk about the Columbus Blue Jackets and how it's time to give them a friggin' break. And finally, we're going to wrap this show up with a quick look on to the game on slates or game over slates across the Game Over Network tonight. But first, I want to tell you all about Hyperdrive Hockey. It's this phenomenal new show. Find our clips on YouTube or TikTok, and you can kind of get a taste of what that program's all about. New episodes come out on Tuesdays and Fridays. Max, Daphne, and Kev really dive into the intricacies of hockey from a perspective that you may not be as familiar with as some others, and I think the hockey broadcast world is definitely better for it. So they had a great dive into Connor McDavid stuff on Tuesday. So go give that a listen wherever fine podcasts are sold, or over on the Game Over Network national channel. So let's talk about the night of blowouts. There was only one game that had a margin of victory of 2 goals. That was it. There was one. And one of the teams didn't even score. So the Islanders lost the Blue Jackets 2-0. That was the tightest game of the entire slate we saw last night. The Jets beat the pants off the Detroit Red Wings, who are starting to become the Detroit Dead Things. I'm just really wondering how long Brendan Shanahan can go on with that team. The Lightning smacked the tar out of the Colorado Avalanche 5-2. Utah doused the Flames. Boom. Jokes about a team name 5-1. The Kings took down the Golden Knights 6-3. And in the game we were most excited for last night, the Hughes Bowl. You got Luke. You got Quinn. You got Jack. And the game was just jack shit bad. It was not fun. 6-0. The Devils absolutely smacked the crap out of the Vancouver Canucks. That game was supposed to be the big exciting moment, and it was a wet fart. But that's not all we've seen for blowouts, because on Tuesday night, we saw the Kraken beat Montreal 8-2. The Senators beat the Blues 8-1. And then a 6-5 game... or a 5-3 game, Rangers and Capitals, and a 5-3 game, Wild and Penguins. Where are all these just ridiculously blow-up scores coming from right now? Well, there's a couple of things we can kind of look into that are the cause of this. Number one, we're starting to get teams that are starting to get like a little tired. This is the first chunk of the season. Everyone's getting right back into the flow of things. Some teams are doing better. Some teams are doing worse. And the kind of slog of the season is starting to settle in. You're also finding teams that are getting their first like really big kind of moments of chemistry that are all blending together, because the offensive side of hockey always comes quicker than the defensive side. That's why early season you still see a whole bunch of crazy blowout scores, and that's a kind of a trail off of what we're seeing right now, in my opinion. I mean, the fact, though, that the Flames have started to kind of become the team we thought they were going to be, or a lot of people thought they were, I don't know if is extremely surprising, as they're 5-4-1, having lost so badly to Utah last night. The Flames will probably be okay. I can't see them like losing out of the playoffs at this point. I mean, they'd have to totally collapse. But I mean, if the Oilers pull this together, who knows what the Flames are going to end up being. But I imagine we're going to see a few more blowouts before all the teams like completely figure out their defensive systems. And honestly, a few more coaches will probably get fired in the near future. Wouldn't be shocked to see that anytime soon. Mainly Mike Sullivan in Pittsburgh. So we'll probably start to see the dead cat, dead coach bounce. Those are the same things, right? Totally. So we'll probably have that coming up in the next little while, as U.S. Thanksgiving is only a handful of weeks away. So let's dive into Halloween costumes, because there's been some pretty good ones. There's been some really funny ones so far. The GM of the Columbus Blue Jackets, he came into the office today dressed as the Green Lantern, riding a little one of those motorized scooters that a lot of cities have. Yeah, Don Waddell just really loves the Green Lantern. Good for you, you deeply weird guy. We've seen a couple of other costumes sort of float out here. A lot of Mudang, the weird little hippo that everyone loves. A lot of ones of those as well. But the thing to remember, especially with the not just the Edmonton Halloween party, because that one hasn't happened yet, but with so many of the other team Halloween parties, that just because of the schedule, they don't have a chance to do it. So a lot of teams' Halloween parties end up being sometime in November, usually after Remembrance Day, because that's when you try to find a small break in the schedule. And they do that because they both hate Christmas and the troops, I assume. Can't figure out why there'd be any other reason for that sort of thing. Now, before we wrap up the show, I want to talk to you about Columbus. I saw a really sweet story today from a reporter that was talking to Sean Monahan, and they asked him about his sticks, and Sean said, "Oh, I'll be putting Johnny Gaudreau's initials on those sticks for the rest of my career." And that story is still like so fresh, like it was only a bunch of weeks ago that we heard about the awful news about the Gaudreau brothers. I think it's time that we need to stop asking Columbus about it, because my God, that sucks and must suck for the team. Not only are they missing one of their friends, they're still in the mourning process. Like, a lot of these guys have barely had a chance to do a proper mourning process, because like all that happened and then they immediately jumped into the regular season. And every single city they go in, there's another reporter from some AM talk radio station that's trying to get in there and ask the deep, heavy question about how they're doing and how this has affected their team. And honestly, fuck off. Fuck all the way off with that. At this point in time, these guys have been re-traumatized so many times having to answer these questions, especially Sean Monahan in particular, with not just his friendship, but he had an appearance on the What Chaos show, and he talked about specifically one of the reasons he was so excited to go to Columbus was so him and John's kids could like kind of grow up together. That was a big part of why he went there. And to be asking him about his friend again and again and again and again and again is getting shitty. So, hey, NHL media, you big fancy accredited folks, give Columbus a break. Because, like, they deserve it at this point. So, with that, we're going to call it on our little soapbox here on Game On Hockey. My name's Graham Mosiman. There's a lot of very good games coming up tonight, especially across the Game Over network. Kraken and Maple Leafs go tonight. Also have Canadiens and Capitals, Oilers and Predators as well. So once all those games are wrapped up, our local teams are going to go live with a post-game show, and you can get in all the hockey post-game goodness as our wonderful staff break down those games across the Game Over network. That'll do it for this edition of Game On Hockey. I'm Graham Mosiman. If you liked this episode, give us a like. If you really liked it, subscribe and leave us a review, because it's stuff like that that really helps this little media company we have here. Have a wonderful, happy Halloween. We'll wrap up the week with you tomorrow here on Game On Hockey.